Hello, dearest beautiful souls. This is Lady Ninari, Princess of the Sea, Lady of Glencoe, Highlands, Scotland, here with a new video. And we're going to do some dancing. And we're going to allow the Divine Masculine to lead Divine Feminine. This video is actually for both Divine Feminine and Divine Masculine. And it's addressing some issues of things that I know a lot of you are dealing with in your relationships and unions and sacred connections and things of that nature. But it's also something that's come up for me personally as well. And so I wish to share with you some wisdom upon it. Now, this is something that actually this video I had anticipated making several months ago. And just now I'm coming into the right divine timing to do so. So what I want to start off sharing with you is about leading and dancing. So, and if any of you know about ballroom dancing or any type of dancing, you know, the salsa, the rumba, the waltz, I have two dear friends who live here where I do, and they're amazing dancers. And in fact, they are getting ready to do a form of a Strictly Come Dancing type thing, not Strictly Come Dancing itself, but something like it here coming up towards the end of November in about a month. And so they're amazing dancers, and I was recalling some months back, and that's why I said this video I was prompted to do a couple months ago, but then being prompted probably off and on for the last couple of years, to be fair, on this. But I remember some months ago speaking with both of them, and they are twin souls. And when they first started dancing some years ago, she was saying in her divine masculine, and she was having trouble allowing him to lead. And separately and equally, he was also having trouble leading. He didn't know how to lead. And so she had to guide him and make it look like, this was her word, she said, I made it look like he was leading, but I was guiding him on how to lead the whole time. And now, he's just like this amazing, dancer in terms of being a leader. And I got to taste that in something that occurred over the summer. We had some dances here in our wee village at the pavilion, and I went to a couple of them over the summer. And the very first one that I went to, we got teamed up, or partnered up, and I think it might have been the rumba or some sort of a sexy dance. I can't remember which one it was now because I'm not, well versed on the different ballroom dances and whatnot. However, in this dance, we were partnered up. And it was supposed to be this dance that was very sensuous, and yet it was very open and flowing. And at the same moment, it required, as most dances do, the man to lead. And so I got partnered with a bloke who, we kind of all just, chose our own partners. But this bloke approached me and asked to, partner with me. And I was totally being in my divine feminine and totally open and totally willing and totally receiving. And so this gentleman, he proceeded to, watch the instruction from the dance, that was occurring and how we were supposed to be doing this. And then immediately when it came time for us to do the steps, that were being instructed, he went and did his own thing. And he was leading me on the dance floor in being a lead in just his own dance and whatever flow. It wasn't really the steps at all. Now for me, because I was so open and willing and receiving, and this was a type of dance that was supposed to be very flowing, and it wasn't the rumba, it was something else, and I can't remember. It might have been I think it was the Argentine tango, and it's very open-ended and whatnot. So because this dance was very open-ended in that respect, but still had the man being the lead, you could play with the different steps that were being shown, but he kind of ignored all the steps that were being given, and just every time we were to do some of the steps that were being instructed. He just went and guided me and led me and just, did his own dance kind of thing. And again, as I was being open and receptive in the divine feminine flow and creative and just, I just went with it. I didn't question it. I didn't, say to him, aren't we supposed to be doing such and such steps? I didn't even attempt to guide the man, into, attempting to do any proper steps. And I think I attempted to do so one time, and he just kind of, swooshed me on the floor, moved me in a way very firmly, kind of like, no, this is what I'm doing, kind of thing. And that was a bit off-putting in a sense, but I just went with it, right? And so this other bloke that I was saying, who's become a wonderful leader in dancing, approached me later on, and I said to him, I said, I love this dance of the Argentine tango, is because it's such a flowing dance, and it's not something that's completely rigid. You have to do this step and that step, and you have to remember this and you have to remember that. You can flow with different steps, the way they were teaching it, right? And so he said, oh yeah, well, let's see if you can really do this and allow a proper man to lead you. And he grabbed me on the dance floor and he started to lead me, and I immediately tensed up. And it was because I felt like I had to look at my feet and make sure I was doing it right. All these things, I went totally into my mind. And then I relaxed into it a little bit, and I started to dance and flow a little bit better, but I still felt that sense of tension. So I asked him afterwards, after he stopped dancing with me, did I do well? And he said, well, not too bad. He said, but, you were kind of leading more from your head, and rather than just surrendering into it and allowing your body to flow and allowing me to lead in that respect. So it was a very interesting thing, and this is what I want to talk about in terms of letting a man lead. Because divine feminine and divine masculine, these are the roles, if you will, and not so much roles as in we're going backwards in society, but back into the traditional roles of who we are. And the reason that I say that is that my own twin soul, back, I don't know, it was probably a month or so ago, I can't remember the video that he was watching. It may have been Ben Shapiro or somebody like that, but it was having to do with all the stuff that's going on with, men abusing women and sexual abuse and things in politics and things of that nature regarding this and whatnot. And so this bloke was speaking, and and what I typed up part of what it was that he wrote and what he said, and part of what he said was this: when you don't teach men to protect women, you get men who will victimize women. And when you don't teach women that they ought to cherish men who are responsible and good, all you end up doing is incentivizing the bad male behavior. The feminist movement was not wrong when they said men were behaving like pigs. They were wrong when they said women ought to also behave like pigs. And our solution to our problem is actually, he goes on further to say that the solution to the problem is getting back into a more traditional roles of male and female with the feminist respect. That we ought to have, steps in this process with respect and, intimacy and connection in, this going a long way, because we've done away with so much of that. So now I've talked about this in many of my videos in different ways and whatnot, why this has come about. Now, this is something that has happened many times over many millennia. However, in the most recent 100 plus years or so, we had the women's movement in the 20s, and 30s, in which we were able to stand up as divine feminine goddesses and have the right to vote, and be right equal to men and whatnot. And then in the 1960s, my era, we had the love movement and the peace movement and the hippie movement, the hippie as I am. And what we did in that realm is we gave the divine masculine to ease more into their divine feminine essence. But what has happened because of this is that there is a role reversal that has occurred, and you have so many divine feminine women who are divine masculine in origin. Now we both have both essences within us, and that is fine, but a lot of women are way over to the other side and being more divine masculine, and then we have the divine masculine who are way over to the other side as well, out of balance, being so divine feminine that they've forgotten and don't know how to lead. In fact, I was just literally speaking with a divine masculine man, beautiful soul, who is a near twin of mine and is someone who I mentor. And just having this conversation before I started recording this here, and he was asking me for guidance. Any ideas that I had in how to lead his twin soul, he would be completely open to from me. So this video is inspired by him and by loads of others that have come to me, with this dynamic and the struggles that I've had, which I will share of my own path with my twin soul. So I want to get into what the divine feminine and divine masculine are. And what I mean by that is that who we are at our soul essence and who we are to be in the essence of being embodied as soul. Okay, so one of the things that this bloke said to me, the one who asked me for wisdom to help him with his twin soul and be in leading her, he said to me that at some point along the way that he realized that I was very deep into multidimensional consciousness. He called it 5D, but multidimensional consciousness, more so than anyone else he had ever encountered anyway before. Well, this is who I am. I am very deep into this and work in these realms, as many of you know. And he further went on to say that at some point in time he realized that he had no idea where I was exactly in terms of that multidimensional consciousness, because it was so unfamiliar to him and unknown. However, he said he was drawn instantly to go where I am, and without reservation at all. So this is who we are to be as the divine feminine, and this was the part of his divine masculinity that was divine feminine, which was absolutely beautiful. And as I said, we have both essences within us, and it is a dance, it is a flow. And the reason I shared with you about this bloke, earlier, who was on the dance floor with me, and then what occurred later on, to go back to that story, later on in the afternoon, this same bloke who I was partnered with during the Argentine tango lesson, he went on a couple of times to asked me to dance, and I did dance with him a couple of times, but most of the time I did not do so, mainly because I don't dance a lot anyway due to health reasons and whatnot. But beyond that, it was also because I realized something, which was, every time he would get up and dance, whether it was me or another woman, or if he was dancing on his own, which he tended to do a lot on the dance floor, he was very much into his own dance. He was into what he wanted to do. He was into his own dance and being guided by himself. And, not really concerned about me or any other woman he was leading as to what her, needs or wants or moves or how she was feeling is. And he was, very much into just not even being concerned at all about what source was guiding him for, or the instruction that was being given in the lesson. He was just into him and himself. And I found that to be very interesting, and I'll share with you in a little bit why that is the case. So what I want to share with you now, though, is the divine feminine and divine masculine roles. Now, these are not something that are set in stone. It's very fluid in that sense, but this is something that we're moving back into in terms of traditional roles, not about suppressing either the divine feminine or the divine masculine. It's more coming into it from a soulful perspective and a multidimensional consciousness perspective, as the gentleman I was telling you about had said he knows that I am. So for the divine feminine is being guided by source first, listening to that intuitive heart of source energy and the vision from source. That requires getting quiet and listening deeply within. And I have loads of videos on my YouTube and Facebook about that, loads of channels that I've done and whatnot. So I would invite you to, dive into those if you feel so guided to. Being guided by Source first, then taking another's best interest into her heart, as well as her own best interest into her heart, and the benefit of all as well. The Divine Feminine is soft, intuitive, inspirational, flowing, open, receptive, creative, co-creative, taking the seed given by the Divine Masculine or Source and giving birth to all of life through her. Being beauty, not beauty as in just outer beauty, but inner beauty, the inner beauty of the soul. Sensual, and we're not talking about just sexual and being manipulative sexually. We're talking about sensual as in that divine feminine goddess flow. Going back to dance, when you just see a beautiful belly dancer, just gracefully moving, it's that grace and sensualness. She's in touch with her body and in touch with her soul, and she knows who she is, and she's just really guided in that gentle flow. Yeah. The Divine Feminine is guiding, compassionate listening, and being a man-speak translator is what I've been nicknamed, and I've done videos on this before, but it's hearing the heart of a man, hearing the message behind the message of what's really being said, and this is going for men, but also for everybody. And quick example I will give of this is, someone comes to you and you say, "How's you?" And they say, "Oh, I'm fine." But darn well right, you can tell both in their voice inflection, their mannerism, if they're in front of you, but intuitively you can feel it, that they're not fine at all. You just sense that energy. That's who the Divine Feminine is, okay? The Divine Masculine is being guided by Source first as well, and then taking another's best interest in his heart, and as well as his own best interest, and as well as the benefit of all at once. The Divine Masculine is present. He's fully present with you in whatever is occurring in the moment, whatever is and is occurring in the moment. Divine Masculine is the pillar of consciousness and strength. Not about strength as in physical strength, which can be true, but it's the strength of inner knowing, of standing in the storm, of a woman, whatever she does, if she's being emotional and having a moment, he's able to stand fully present as that pillar of consciousness and strength. I'm here for you. I'm here holding space for you, free from being fettered by her storm. And being focused upon Source, and Source being his source, to where you come in contact with an energy, he is free from being affected by it. He is that calm in the storm, allowing that connection within him of Source to be more important than whatever's being thrown at him in the storm. The Divine Masculine is the protector. Okay, and what I mean by this is not what we know in ancient times. In medieval times, in ancient times, in times of war, we deemed that as the protector in terms of going off to war and fighting. Even nowadays, we still have wars going on in other countries of the world, not as much as usually. We're in the most peaceful times that this planet has experienced in a long time. However, it is not about being the protector in terms of going out and fighting wars or fighting some evil. It is about protecting women, protecting a woman, and goes back to that speech that I was recalling earlier, that was spoken from that gentleman. It's about protecting women so that they are free from being harmed. Now, sometimes that means going to war, but not so much nowadays. It's really about dropping the armor and being vulnerable. And being a protector is about protecting women so that they are unharmed and are able to freely walk the earth. And that includes the Divine Masculine himself being free from harming that woman or women in general. It's about an honor and a reverence of all that's Divine Feminine. It's being the protector is about You are safe with me. You can trust me. You can know that I am here for you and that I will take your best interest at heart when you are around me. Okay, that's what being a protector really means. So the divine masculine is supportive. Okay, he is uplifting, he is encouraging, he's supportive in the sense of he's always asking, how may I help, how may I serve? And he's there to serve the divine feminine, and I'll get into that a little bit more in just a moment. And he is a leader. He's leading not like you have to do what I say, and this is the way it is. That's control and manipulation. That's not what being a leader is. Being a leader is, I'm receiving the vision from Source, and I am taking my best interests, your best interests, and the benefit of all at heart, and I am asking you to follow my lead. Okay? I am guiding you in that. Lead, follow my lead. Okay, that's what being a leader is about for the divine masculine. The divine masculine is forward moving. They're in right action. In other words, taking right action from the heart and the soul, being guided by love, Source itself, love or Source itself. Giving the seed of life, not just the sperm and spermentation, in that respect. It's giving the seed of life, of ideas, of inspiration, of being able to give to the divine feminine that which she can blossom and birth through her. The divine masculine is gentle and tender, yet strong in the presence, uplifting and encouraging, and again being in that right action. And so to go with that, I actually have a channel that I did about 5 years ago now, little over 4 years ago now, and it's called The Seed of Life, and it's on my website under my channels page, and I will put the link for it in this video description. Yet there is some of it I wish to read to you because it ties into what we're going to share here in this video about men, divine feminine and divine masculine, and the divine masculine leading, and the divine feminine allowing the divine masculine to lead. So in the seed of life, what I will read to you here is this: the divine masculine comes into the life of the divine feminine to bless her, and often opens doors for her in ways that she is unable to do on her own. This is free from meaning that she is weak and is unable to do so on her own, nor does it mean such for a man either of weakness. For we both men and women have a balance of both the divine feminine and divine masculine within, and are capable of doing such on our own, in co-creation and balance with the master artist of the universe. And going further in, what the channel shares about is how that goes about. And what I wanted to read is about who the divine feminine and divine masculine are. And again, I'll leave the link so that you can read the totality of this channel. As the divine feminine, when she is fully in her goddess of the divine feminine, she is then beautiful radiance, the curves of the river of love and sea as one. She is free from being linear. She is multidimensional with her intuitive gifts of the heart, which is the heart of Source itself. She is the flow, creative, co-creative energy, that which is the receiver of the light from the sun of the divine masculine and his seed, and then brings life forth from the sun through the alchemical process of transforming energy into form. The divine masculine are to be in service to the divine feminine, free from being servants in the ways of being a slave, rather in the servant role of blessing the divine feminine in giving such a seed of creation. In blessing the divine feminine, he is to uplift her into her goddess by seeing her as much of a goddess, as seeing her as such goddess, which then brings forth her infinite possibilities and potentials into fruition. He is to bring life to her, breathe life into her, so that the breath of life that he gives her that her divine feminine flow is maximized and the fullness of her divinity in divine feminine energy is realized. As the divine masculine honors, blesses, uplifts, supports, nurtures, and serves the divine feminine in this way, all of life is then blessed. For the divine masculine, this starts with his connection, union, and relating or real relationship with the divine feminine of the earth and of the cosmos, and then within him, and then to all the divine feminine, as in essence all is divine feminine. So with this said, I was asked by that divine masculine man, who I said earlier, who I mentor and is a near twin of mine, how do I lead a woman? Any ideas and inspirations would be absolutely wonderful and I would appreciate. So divine masculine men, please listen. For the divine masculine to lead the divine feminine, it is a combination of these things. First and foremost, this goes back to what I had said earlier about the dancing with that bloke. Okay, so you'll understand the reference in a moment. First and foremost, divine masculine, ye are to listen within, to source, to love itself, God, Spirit, the Master Artist, the Tao, the universal source, all that is, whatever you choose to call such. Listen to source first, rather than your penis, your lingam, your dorje. Now, I say that in the kindest of love, because so many divine masculine men who are at the more 3D levels of consciousness are listening with their penis, listening with their dorje, as it's also called, or listening with their lingam. Okay, so they're allowing their emotions and their lust for a woman and what they can do to conquer a woman in that respect to guide him. That is free from being source energy. Now, the majority of the divine masculine who are listening to this now are free from being in that category. However, it goes without saying, and so I am saying that first. Okay, so what does it mean to listen to source and listen within? Okay, it means to get still and get quiet. Okay, allow the monkey mind to subside. Allow what is coming through in inspiration from source. And I have many channels about that, how you know it's the intuitive heart. I have an intuitive heart interview. I can put the link for that into the video description as well, so that you can get a basic idea if you don't know what that means. But source energy brings through the vision, not only for you and your life, but for you and the women that you are leading, whether it's your twin soul, whether it's a near twin, whether it's a soul connection, a heart connection, a soul mate, just women you're dating. Okay, it doesn't matter. There is a common vision. I prefer to use vision rather than goals, because goals is very earthly orientated and very led by motivation rather than inspiration. Motivation is usually, I have to get this done and let me pump myself up to get this done kind of thing. Inspiration is where you're being led by source. So in order for a man to lead a woman, a divine masculine to lead the divine feminine goddess, he is to be led by source. Okay? So anyone who's leading always is led. Okay? It's an infinite circle in that respect. An infinite circle, an infinite cycle. So what is the vision that you are receiving of the two of you? Okay? So to go back to my twin soul for a moment, that vision was given in the time before time, long before we physically met in this life, and many other lives that we've had together. And it was something that channeled through my twin soul just before we met physically, and was literally done a fortnight before we actually met, but it began exactly 11 years ago this month. This is the 11th anniversary of Song of the Troubadour, and it is the 10th anniversary of Song of the Princess, which I subsequently wrote a year later, that my twin soul, as leading me, asked me to do. So Song of the Troubadour and Song of the Princess is a metaphysical love story, and underpinning it are very deep esoteric wisdom, very deep metaphysical wisdom about love, about life, about what unconditional love is, the love of Source, what true union is, what true twin souls are, all of it. And so the vision of it, of who we are and where we're meant to go and how my twin soul is to lead me, is written in Song of the Troubadour. And at the end of Song of the Troubadour, after they marry, it is said that their greatest work would be created if the master artist allowed it to come into being, and as the master artist allowed it. Okay? So the vision is already there to be guided by, and he is to come to me, in being that lead. Yeah? So what has happened along the path, though, has not been that. And this is where it is important for the next piece, and I will get into that of what's happened on my path in just a moment. The next piece for the Divine Masculine in learning how to lead the Divine Feminine in this dance of sacred union, the sacred path of sacred union, is to listen within to her heart. Listen to the goddess who you are called to. Whether, again, that's your twin soul, near twin, soulmate, union, soulful connection, heart connection, it doesn't matter. What does that mean? It means get to know her. Not what her birth date is, or her favorite color is, or just her likes and dislikes. That's part of it, but that's more 3D. And that's part of it, and you can include that. But what really about getting to know her is know her heart, know her soul, know what makes her tick, know what she needs in the moment, even before she knows. Listen to her heart and the messages behind the message. Does she need to be touched now? Does she need to be sung to now? Does she need a kind, loving, uplifting word, to like a video that she did? To give her a song, whatever it is, find out what makes her tick, what makes her light up, and equally what would turn her off. Yeah? Listen to her and remember things that she says to you. Pay attention with intention. Be okay with her guiding you in loving guidance, and allow her intuition to come through. If she's receiving intuition about things having to do with the dance, let's add this move in here and whatnot, be open to that and receive that as part of the dance. For her intuition is a gift from Source and is there to help guide you, not tell you what to do, not in an attempt to control or own you, but there to help guide you in the next natural steps of the union and the dance. Listen with attention and intention to her heart, to her soul. Make love to her heart and her soul long before you do with her body. It's about having an intentionality and a purpose and a responsibility, a respondability, ability to respond to what her heart needs. So along this path, for me, this is where there has been this hiccup. So just to share a bit of my background and story with my twin soul, and some of you who've watched my twin soul series of my twin soul playlist may know about some of this. Some of this I've never really shared before. So on the path of being twin souls, my twin soul and I connected nearly 11 years ago physically. We were connected long before that in soul and spirit, and if you watch my videos on the Twin Soul playlist, which I can leave the link in the description here as well, you'll know more about that process and how that unfolded. So in the beginning of our union, in that first year, I was very open, very receptive, very much in my divine feminine goddess, and allowing my twin soul to lead. And at one point he had said to me, about this time, it was October, I think, of 2008, he said, I want you here and I want you with me. And at that time I was living in America. And so I followed my heart and I followed his lead and I went to Canada, went home to be with him. And that first night that we spent together, winter solstice, it was absolutely beautiful and it was magical, and I allowed him to lead. And he said to me that he honored me for following my heart and for listening to him as well, for coming there to be with him. Now, immediately following that evening, he freaked out. And what subsequently happened is that he refused to allow me to stay with him. And where I was at the retreat center, helping our mutual friends, that fell apart because their marriage was falling apart, and subsequently they had ended up divorcing 6 months later. However, I was left with no place to go. And so I ended up staying with a mutual friend of my twin souls and mine, who I had actually met this friend. He was friends, obviously, with my twin soul first, but I had met this friend just a few days before. He offered for me to stay at his place, and so I went to his. So I was there, and it turned out, and I found this out after it happened, that because my twin soul was in fear, he concocted this scheme with this bloke that I was staying with at his, which at that time was literally 4 or 5 houses down from where my twin soul lived, on the same street. And so they concocted this thing to leave me stranded in Kelowna Airport. I had about 250 quid to my name, and that was it, no place to go. So I ended up having to go back and live with my ex-husband, who was in a very abusive, relationship and former marriage and whatnot, because it was either that or live homeless on the streets. Now, I knew when this happened, and I was invited to do a radio show interview having to do with following your heart and other things about a fortnight after this occurred. And on air, live at that time, I had said how I knew that he was doing this from fear, and that I knew it wasn't him and whatnot. So this started a string of events that over the course of this last 11 years, every time I would relax into it and I would feel this sense of positivity and joy and flow and being fully in my divine feminine and being guided by my intuition of things from source to, say, do, be, and experience. And every time I would allow my twin soul to lead, what would happen is one of several things. Either A, he would not lead at all, or he would lead to a certain point and then stop. And that point usually occurred when it came time to take the major steps, i.e. moving in together, living together, or marrying or co-creating music together, or being physically together. Now, there were times still over the years that we were together physically and whatnot, but it has been over 5 years that we have physically seen each other. The last time we saw each other was the first part of September of 2013. And so either that would happen where he would not lead at all, or he would lead and then stop when it came to the point of things naturally in the natural progression of a union relationship, to say we were a couple, to move forward in co-creating and living together, to tell his daughter and his family about me. He would stop short and not do so and hide me away as if I was some dirty little secret. Or he would lead very, very slowly. And it's meant to be in the flow. When you are truly interested in a woman, divine masculine men, here's the thing: how to lead a woman. Do so with attention and intention. If you really fancy this woman, then do so. And do so in a natural flow, neither too fast or neither too slow, but in a natural flow, in the natural progression, and allow things to go from one thing to another, rather than putting the brakes on it, as my twin soul did. And so then he would resist it as well, would be the other thing. He would resist it. He would say, oh, I'm not in love with you, we're not a couple. He went to some rather extreme ways of showing that as well, in certain events that happened almost 5 years ago as well, which I won't get into right now. But, he would do so and deny me love and attention and affection and being together with me. And then he would start leading me again. So it was like, what was happening is that, to go back to earlier, what I was saying about that bloke, and this is where it ties in, that bloke who ended up on the dance floor partnering with me during the Argentine tango, and then later on sodding off and dancing on his own. What my twin soul was doing, and I'm free from, saying this to put him down or anything, this is just this is what occurred during all these years, is that he was listening to what he wanted. He was listening to his heart, and he said he was listening to Source and being guided by love, but he wasn't listening to the vision of Song of the Troubadour and Song of the Princess. He was listening to his fears. He was listening to not feeling that he was worthy enough of me. He all the wounds and the inner soul child healing work that still needed to be done during that time. He was listening to his will be done, and he certainly wasn't listening to my heart or my best interests or what made me tick. Now, there were moments when he did, like when song was coming through, or songs that he wrote for me, or moments when he proposed to me through song, or moments like even now when he does a gig, I'll text him and say, can you play something for me? And he'll text me back with, a song that, like he did the other night even, All I Have to Do Is Dream, to tell me that he loves me and wants me and needs me. Yeah. So when you are leading divine masculine, it is so very important that you do with attention and intention to Source, because just like that bloke who was on the dance floor, right? He was going to the beat of his own drum. He wasn't caring about, remember I had said, he wasn't caring about the instruction of the Argentine tango and what was being brought about with that. And he wasn't listening to Source, and he wasn't listening to my heart. He was just kind of dragging me all around on the floor in what he felt he wanted to do. Okay? So it's very important that you, as divine masculine, that you listen to your divine feminine. Yeah? So it would be like what he was doing is, my twin soul, he would be listening to his own song and, leading with the waltz, let's say, of his own song, rather than the Argentine tango or the rumba, that was being instructed by Source of Song of the Troubadour. Yeah? And so this is what caused us loads of issues, and still has been causing us loads of issues, because as a result, if you recall, when my friend, the divine masculine friend of mine who came to me, who's a really good dancer and who is a leader, and he knows who he is, and he knows what he wants, and he knows how to lead a woman properly, and when he grabbed me on the dance floor, what did I do? I immediately tensed up, because I was in that place of, okay, is he going to do the same thing as this bloke did earlier? And then it was also representative of all the many times I had been open and receptive and willingly allowing my twin soul to lead, only for him to turn around and do the things that he had done. And so then I wasn't able to relax, and I was being tense. And so it showed up in the dancing. So I had to come into allowing him to lead, which I'll get into in the divine feminine aspect in a few moments. But for the divine masculine, what's so important, and it's something that I want to read to you. I'm actually going to provide the link. It is something that I channeled through for my twin soul and I, due to a song that he had brought through about 7 years ago now, maybe 8 years ago now. It was around 2010, 2011. I'd have to look around the specific date. But in this beautiful song, it inspired this channel upon me, and it is reflective of who the divine masculine is meant to be in leading. And it utilizes the troubadour and the princess, and the troubadour and the princess, of course, represents my twin soul and I, but it also represents who the divine masculine and divine feminine are, as well as the princess and the troubadour. So it says this, and I'll only read part of it. But I'll leave the link to it so you can hear it, because I recorded it for my album in 2013, so 5 years ago, and it's called Their Highest Truth. This is who the troubadour and the princess are together. The troubadour is a man who searches out the beauty and the feminine of his princess with such authority and love that she cannot help but surrender herself to his love. He sees the perfection in the universe unfolding exactly as it is. He is no longer victimized by anyone or anything. His power comes from knowing this divine order in life, trusting in it, and keeping his heart open to the wonders of creation. He is in love with life and in love with the woman who calls to his heart, his princess. Not his princess as in a possession, for he is free from ever owning her. Simply his princess as the celebration of the divine love they are together. He knows himself as life and knows that all of life is the same divine perfection. Knowing his own perfection, the troubadour is not afraid to feel what he feels, nor to think what he thinks. He is not afraid to want what he wants. He is not afraid to say what he wants and to go for what he wants. He is free to come to her and say, I want you and I love you. He is not afraid of rejection because he has ceased to reject himself. When the troubadour speaks, I want you and I love you, and the princess sees that she can trust his authority in that, she has the opportunity to surrender to his wanting and to his love. I have not known any woman, even the princess herself, who would refuse to surrender to the troubadour who knows what he wants through the expression of his divinity. Now I'm going to further read the rest of that in a few moments, because it ties into who the princess or the divine feminine is to be in allowing the divine masculine to lead. So I will leave it at that, but what I want to say for now, and come back to it, what I want to say for now is that divine masculine, for you to lead the divine feminine, it is to come from that with the authority, that authority of command of the master artist, of source itself, that you know yourself so well, your soul so well, and you know her soul so well, that you know her within, you know her heart, and you know source's plan, source's vision for you both, and that you're guided by that and only that, her heart and source's heart and your heart together. Getting to know her, building that trust, coming to her with that authority within you from your divinity. If you're coming from a place, and this is what I meant earlier about men who are led by their penises or their dorjes or their lingams. If you come to a woman saying, oh, I want you, and it's from that place of neediness, oh no, she will reject you, hands down. Okay? We are, as the divine feminine, do not want a man who is needy. We do not want a man that we have to treat as a child and be the parent either. Guiding, yes, absolutely, but not to where we have to teach them everything. Okay? So, building that trust, knowing that you're clear and reliable, that you don't play games, that you don't leading for a moment, manipulating the situation and then dropping her on the dance floor. Okay, so to go back to the dance analogy, it would be like knowing the dance of the steps of the rumba, for instance, and then just starting to lead and being very strong, and then all of a sudden you fumble about, and of course the Divine Masculine is going to fumble about, but not knowing himself at all, fumbling about and kind of leaving her floundering. Yeah? And this is what was happening with my twin soul. I would be left floundering, and then he would pick up the lead again and start all over again. But then when we get to that point where it came time for commitment, or it came time for those next steps, no, right? And being that pillar means to lead in terms of being open, being able to show your love from the divine love of Source. Again, being in touch with her heart and her soul, not just about lust and outer beauty and consumerism and leading some charge to eradicate evil in the world. Being fully in purpose of love, of Source energy, not only in your purpose and penetrating the world with that, in helping humanity, but also penetrating her with your love, the love of Source, seeing the God, the gift of divinity within her as Goddess, and bringing that out in her in inspiration. Okay, it's not about leading in a non-committal way. Okay, that when you do that, it's very wishy-washy. And so we don't know how to respond to the wishy-washiness, the back and forthness, the vacillation, the one moment, oh, I really, want you, and then the next moment, no. Okay? Knowing and anticipating those next moves and being decisive, being direct, being in that place of that inner knowing, as I just read. When I know a Divine Masculine knows who he is, knows what he wants, knows the vision from Source, and comes to me and says, I want you, I need you, I love you, and this is our vision, allow me to lead. Oh my God, just like I wrote in that channel, I'm going to surrender and go, yeah, let's do this. I'm going to be just like overflowing and life is going to give birth through me in that respect, yeah? And it's about proving yourself and being held accountable for that without hesitation. If she, the Divine Feminine, is asking, are you sure you know where you're going? Say without hesitation, I do know. I know the next steps of the dance of the rumba, and I'm going to guide you and lead you through it. And, we'll get to more of that in just a few moments with the Divine Feminine as well. It's about proving to yourself and proving to her and proving to Source that you, Divine Masculine, are someone that she can count on. You can count on me. Even when you are feeling lost, Divine Masculine, even when she may be, or maybe both of you together are feeling a bit lost, that you can take up that lead and know the steps of the rumba or the Argentine tango and take up that lead. Yeah? It allows that sense for the Divine Feminine to be able to relax. And that is something that has been extremely hard for me, is being able to relax into allowing my Divine Masculine twin soul to lead me, because every time I have relaxed into it, he has not done so properly. And it has left me on the dance floor going, right, okay, so what are the next steps? Okay? So, this is how you lead a Divine Feminine, Divine Masculine, beautiful souls you are. So, in leading, one last thing I will say, when you're leading, and going back to that bloke again who was dancing just being led by his own agenda, when you are leading the Divine Feminine, it is not about your agenda or what dance you want to do, but Source's heart and vision for you both. Her heart in being in service to her is all that is Divine Feminine. Divine Masculine, you are hardwired to please a woman. And you know that you are. It gives you the greatest joy. And Divine Feminine Goddesses, you are meant to know that. So now, Divine Feminine Goddesses, we're going to step into what it means for you to allow the Divine Masculine to lead you. So first and foremost, I will say, the first thing, Divine Feminine, and I say this with the most compassionate, listening love, drop the Divine Masculine armor, please. So many of us Divine Feminine women have hardened our hearts. We are free from being open. We have a split within us where we want the Divine Masculine to lead, but because of societal rules and our own thought process and our own inner soul child healing work to be done, where we've been harmed by Divine Masculine and Divine Feminine alike, we have hardened our hearts. We have become too Divine Masculine, just like the Divine Masculine have become too soft and unwilling to take the lead, or do not know how to take the lead, which is why I started with the Divine Masculine, to show them how to lead. For us as the Divine Feminine, we are to, even though we may have been hurt before, to drop our armor and to realize and know, see with real eyes, realize and know that what is happening in this moment with this Divine Masculine man before you is not the same as it was before with that same man, if it is, or it wasn't the same as all the other men and women who have hurt you, including your own father or well-meaning caregivers or mother or anything. Okay? It is right here, right now, in the present moment where all healing occurs. And some of this I cover in my Divine Feminine Goddess course as well. And I'll probably be adding this recording to the Divine Feminine Goddess course as well. So this said, dropping the armor, being in the present moment to know that this experience, even if it's with the same Divine Masculine man, how many times I have given my twin soul a chance to lead again and again and again as he fumbles around and blunders the steps. Just like my friend, when I was speaking earlier at the beginning of this, and I shared that my friend was saying that, when her twin soul, when they first started dancing, he would bumble about. He always said he had 3 left feet. Okay, and she had to guide him and make it look like he was leading. Yeah, so this is who we are to be, Divine Feminine Goddesses. We are to be open, we are to be receptive, we are to be that softness, and to allow our Divine Masculine to bumble around and know that they may misstep, and to know that it is to be free from triggering us back into all the times we've been hurt before. I know I've been guilty of that, even saying that recently. To share another experience, back when I ended up in America for a time, almost 5 years ago now. Whence that happened, I was struggling financially to get back on my feet. Again, after what happened, because I lost everything. I lost my home, I lost where I was living, I lost my soul family that I was living there with, I lost everything, all my possessions and whatnot, and had to begin from scratch again. And so I was kind of homeless, just traveling about, staying with friends and people I could connect with until I could get on my feet. And so after about a year of this, nearly a year, I was still kind of bubbling about on the dance floor, and I looked to my twin soul to lead me. And he led me to a place that he thought was best in the dance for me to live, and that was Sedona. And I know why, because Sedona is a very special place to us. We had a beautiful time, summer solstice weekend in 2009, when we did a couple of gigs there and spent some time together. It was very soulful and very romantic, and a soulful romantic and just very wonderful weekend, and a special time. And so it was with the intention that he was leading me there that I followed his lead, and I moved house there and lived there, and opened myself up again to his guidance and to him leading the dance. And I did so for 5 months. He has a thing, and this is also part of what I was saying about the divine masculine earlier, in having that inner knowing of who he is and what he wants, in their highest truth that I read about. My divine masculine, beautiful twin soul, he has this thing, and it used to really upset me because I didn't understand at first where he was coming from until I did. The first few years when he would say this to me, of the first few years of the 11 years we were together, it used to upset me. And he would say that, you are to follow my command without questioning it or without fighting it. And he even said this to me recently, that, many divine feminine women wouldn't do this. And as I said, it used to upset me, and what he was really saying was exactly what I had written in that channel of their highest truth together. And I realized that some years ago. There's still a time and again when it would bring up a trigger, but especially because of things that happened 5 years ago. But nonetheless, what he means by that is he wants to lead. He's saying, let me lead on the dance floor and be free from questioning it or fighting it. Allow me to do these dance moves, these dance steps. Surrender to that, surrender to me. I'm coming to you in my expression of divinity, to tell you what I want and what the vision of Source is. And so when he's living and being that fully, I have no problem surrendering in that. And so Sedona, back in 2015, 3 years ago or so, now almost 4 years ago, is when I ended up in Sedona. And I did this for 5 months. I totally surrendered to his lead. I allowed him to lead everything. And then what got to the point was, again, it came time for the natural progression of the union to where we would see each other physically, and he put the brakes up on it again. And wouldn't be with me, and denied me love, and denied me attention, and denied me affection. And we know that, and he did a video on this about the marmots that are there in Vernon. They, are together, huddling together in the earth, and they give each other love, and we all need to be held and cherished and loved. And so I was so deprived of that physicalness, and when we don't have physical intimacy, physical connection, and connection, we are wired as human, and I've talked about this many times on my videos and interviews and things over the 30 odd years I've been doing this, that, a baby, if it is not held and caressed and touched just after birth, it will die. And we require this throughout the rest of our lives. We're hardwired that way as soulful beings in human form. And so to be denied that was causing my own death, physically and spiritually and emotionally inside me. And so there's only so much of, we can be one within and one with Source, and this is what my twin soul was guiding me towards. He was guiding me towards this dance of, let's just be one with Source, and you be with one with Source, and I be one with Source, and we'll have Source first in our lives, and you do your thing and I'll do my thing, and you live there and I'll live here, in Vernon, you live there in Sedona, and we don't need to see each other, we don't need to be physically together, we can just be soulfully together, and that's enough. And from a human perspective, no. My body literally was crying out for attention, love, and affection, just like the marmots, just like this video he did. And I helped him to get this video out, and it subsequently has like 30,000 views or whatever, because I helped him, to do this. And so it was very frustrating for me, and it leaves me floundering, and that's not what the vision is. So divine masculine for the divine feminine goddess, she too has the intuition within her, and she knows what the vision from source is as well. And when she knows it, and you are not coming from that place of your divinity, the expression of your divinity, of who you are and who you are to be together in that vision from source, she knows it, and she's going to let you know it. And that's her role as the divine feminine goddess. She is to guide you. So like on the dance floor, if you're doing the steps to the rumba, and she may know what the next step is, and you're bumbling about, just like my friend said, she had to guide her twin soul on the dance floor when he was bumbling about, but make it look like he was leading so that he learned how to lead. This is what we're meant to do with you, divine masculine. Now, for the divine feminine, this doesn't mean that you get your back up in ego and get all pissy and angry and everything else and lash out. Because when you do that, you disrespect your divine masculine. You emasculate him. Be free from criticizing him if you do clean up your mess. Apologize and change your behavior. Okay? Allow appreciation rather than criticism. Appreciate, praise, approve, adore, lavish him with love when he meets those needs, when he's tuned into your heart. Give you an example. Just yesterday, my twin soul, he does a gig every Wednesday evening at a beautiful tavern there in Vernon at home. Home is Scotland for me, home is Vernon as well. So he does a gig on the Wednesday evening, and I usually ask him lovingly, my love, Mogarai is what it is in Gaelic, Scottish Gaelic. I'd say, Mogarai, my love, can you play something for me so that I will hear you as I drift off to sleep? Because usually when he's playing his gig, it's about the time I'm starting to go to bed in the evening and crash. And he will just send me the song title. We've been doing this for years. He also does it in likes on YouTube to tell me how he feels of different songs. He'll like a song on his YouTube feed. So last evening, it was Angie that he did by the Rolling Stones, because he knew that there were dark clouds and that I was sad, and that he wanted to tell me I'm still beautiful and that he still loves me. And and the other day, the week before, it was all I have to do is dream. Dream, dream, dream. All I have to do is dream when I want you, in the night when I need you to hold me tight. Whenever I want you, all I have to do is dream. That song, yeah? So when he does that, I appreciate him for it, because he knows exactly what I need in that moment. He hears my heart. He knows that vision of us from source, of Song of the Troubadour, of Song of the Princess. And so I appreciate him, and I praise him, and I approve, and I adore, and I lavish him now equally, not in criticism. Equally, though, I will let him know when he has misstepped. And I will say it, sometimes I say it in a little bit of a tough love, like, look it, this isn't cool what you just did, but I don't criticize him, I criticize the behavior, I still love him, okay? So it's very important, divine feminine goddesses, that we not only be open and receptive and allow the man to lead this way, but also be free from criticizing. Lavish that love and appreciation, because, as I said earlier, our divine masculine is hardwired to please all that is divine feminine, which includes us as Divine Feminine Goddesses. Okay? And in that, he will want to do it more and more. Whatever you appreciate grows in value. He will naturally, because he's hardwired, and appreciation, it grows in value what you appreciate. He will naturally want to, because he's hardwired to please Divine Feminine. Okay? So, in allowing him to lead, I'm going to say one word to you, Divine Feminine Goddess. Relax. Relax. Divine masculine men love us when we are in that place of being free, being easy, being in that flow, in that softness, being able to trust. Relaxation and trust. He wants to lead you to a place where you'll both be happy and free. Trust him to do so. Trust that he's going to misstep. But even if you're not sure, trust that he will get you there. Standing on the dance floor with the Argentine tango or the rumba, trust that he knows the steps. Trust that he knows the vision from source. Divine masculine, again, I will stress, trust that you are receiving the vision from source and be guided by that, rather than leading the woman astray and leaving her bumbling on the dance floor. Okay? So, be in that place of openness, allowing him to do the planning. Okay? And you just kind of pretend like, it's not like you don't care, it's just kind of like, oh, surprise me. Allow him to take the initiative rather than you taking the initiative. Okay? And when you are in that free, carefree, flowing essence, your full divine feminine presence and joy is there. Divine masculine men who are strong will stand through and deal with our wild, crazy nature and also be allured by our mystery and our willingness to relax and trust him. Now, for you Divine Feminine Goddesses, I know for some of you it is going to take a lot. But again, it goes to what I said a bit earlier about remember that this moment, even if it is with the same divine masculine man that you're with, even if he has misled you on the dance floor 1,000,000 times before, just like my twin soul has with me, trust him again. Trusting him is not just about trusting him, it's trusting that it is sourced through him, that the command of you that he is going for and going with and through is the command of source through him, as him, of you. So in other words, if he is commanding you in that way, in commanding the lead, he is commanding you as source would. So trusting him is trusting source, and trusting the source that is flowing through him, as him, to guide you. So it's trusting source to guide you. And trusting is about trusting in yourself. It's trusting yourself that you have made the right choice of the right man that you wish to dance with. Seeing his heart, seeing his soul beyond all the masks and beyond all the bumblings and fumblings, to the heart and soul of who he really is, the heart of gold that he is. And here is this divine masculine man standing before you that you love, that you fancy, that you cherish. And when you're in that place, you just surrender into his love for you, as I had written about in their highest truth, which I'll read just a bit more from now, actually, in which this says, In the princess's surrender to the troubadour, there is a call to her greatness. She knows she will not be asked to be small because she feels embraced by the expansiveness of his divine love, which I'll say in parentheses is Source's love through him. As she surrenders to him and he embraces her, he experiences the greatest surrender of all. The troubadour surrenders to the feminine through his absolute certainty of wanting her. In larger spiritual terms, we can see that the masculine, the troubadour, is opening the feminine to the beauty that he sees. Using the authority of his inner divine, he acts as a mirror for that divinity in her. The feminine, the princess, as the partner of the troubadour or aspect of creation, then sees her reflection in him, and all of creation is penetrated and delighted and enlightened by him. As the troubadour, knowing the truth of his divinity and reflecting that divinity back to his beloved, in that reflection she joins him in knowing their highest truth together. So trust is about trusting that, and trusting in the partner that you are choosing to dance with. Trusting within yourself, in your intuition, in your inner knowing from Source that you've chosen the right man to dance with. And if you haven't, then you can choose another partner on the dance floor. Now, of course, if he is being abusive to you, or he is clearly leading a dance that you in your heart and soul do not want to dance, then you are free to leave the dance floor. And what I mean by that is that, as I shared with you earlier, my divine masculine twin soul, what he was doing was leading the dance of, we'll just be one with Source, and Source is our source, which is all fine and well and good and wonderful and is meant to be, and that's how a union is to be, not seeking from each other. Our source is Source, right? However, what he was also leading was, you be there, I'll be here, and you do your thing and I'll do my thing. We won't co-create, we won't see each other. And that is a dance on the dance floor that I, in my true heart, number one, know that is not the vision from Source through him. It is not what is written in Song of the Troubadour of the vision of us from Source, and it is not in my heart, in my best interest, or in his best interest, or in the benefit of all. And when that time comes, you are meant to leave the dance floor and find another partner to dance with, just like I did with that bloke that day at the dance over the summer. I danced with him. He came and asked me to dance a couple of times, but both during the Argentine tango, when he was just doing his own thing and leading me in his own thing and not even paying attention to the teaching of the dance or himself or myself, and he wasn't tuned into me as a partner on the dance floor. And then later on, when we danced as well, and then when he was off dancing, he was doing his own dance and not paying attention to anybody else on the dance floor. In fact, he almost bumped into several people while he was dancing. That's not the kind of man I want to be with. That's not the kind of man that calls to my heart. That's not the kind of man I need in my life, nor the vision that Source has for me. So I left the dance floor, and subsequently I haven't seen him, and I've purposely kept my distance from this man, not to be mean, but to say to him in clear terms, look, we're not on the same page, we're not in the same vibrational frequency, we're not a vibrational match. And interestingly enough, I was able to thank him and bless him for what occurred, because I realized with real eyes, seeing with real eyes, that the truth is that this bloke was showing me the mirror of what was going on between my twin soul and I. So here is this bloke who is just dancing to his own tune and not paying attention to what my heart requires and what the vision is from Source and the dance steps and whatnot. And this is what my twin soul was also mirroring, and also showing me how I was open and receiving him, but then I also had the tension and the fear there from being not being in the present moment and seeing all of those things that had happened before and dragging them into the present moment. So I needed to get in the present moment, which I did, and realize that it was, this was a mirror that was being shown to me as well as about my twin soul, and that both of us had to make some adjustments in the dance and the dance steps to come into that harmony, into that rhythm, into that flow of the melody and harmony of the two of us and our vision. So Divine Feminine Goddesses, it's about trusting him, but then also knowing when you need to leave the dance floor. Okay, trust him that he knows what he's doing. Trust him that he knows the vision from source. And if at some point that vision is not in alignment with what your heart and soul is calling for, and he's not listening to your heart, then you have permission to leave the dance floor. Okay, but do so in a place that is done so in love and empowering and uplifting. Okay? And equally for the Divine Masculine, if you come into a Divine Feminine who is free from letting her armor down and free from allowing you to lead and is free from being in alignment with the dance that you are leading, that you're receiving from source of the two of you, and you're truly coming from your place of divinity as the Divine Masculine in everything that I've shared with you, and you are unable to lead, then you know it's time to take yourself off the dance floor and find yourself another partner that you can dance with in this sacred path of sacred union, and choose a different partner and do so from a place of love. This said, though, in truly trusting, and you have chosen this Divine Masculine man to dance with on the floor, and you're allowing him to lead, Divine Feminine Goddess, your task when he comes to you in that way of your highest truth together, as I just shared, from the inner knowing of his divinity and the inner knowing of source, when the Divine Feminine comes to the when the Divine Masculine comes to the Divine Feminine in this way, your task is to be free from rejecting him. The greatest joy a man has is to be able to give to the Divine Feminine, and she in turn, her greatest joy is to receive him, being that openness and receiving him. I'm reading this from the Seed of Life, again, as I said I would later. Her greatest joy, your greatest joy, Divine Feminine Goddess, is to receive him in that openness and receptivity and his gifts, and to do so in honor and reverence, therefore honoring him and his divinity as he honors you and your divinity. And then utilizing such an appreciation and gratitude to give birth to new creations together. As ye step into your Divine Feminine Goddess, the Divine Masculine then can see you and see your light of love. And just like the moth to the flame, he will be drawn to you and be drawn to you in coming fully, stepping into his role of blessing you in service. For the Divine Masculine is wired in consciousness to be in service to the Divine Feminine, as I've shared before. Just like my near twin, who I said earlier in the beginning, he said he felt drawn to me without, and a hesitation, to go ahead and delve into that realm. He said, even though it was unfamiliar to him and unknown to him, he was drawn instantly to go where I was, to go where I am, and without any reservation. That's how your Divine Masculine will come to you, and that's how you're meant to come to him as well. And one more thing that goes with this, as far as being free from rejecting him when he comes to you, is to understand that the Divine Masculine are similar to elastic bands. Okay, they get close and then they pull away. They need time in their cave. Now, I've talked about this a zillion times in all of my videos on YouTube and Facebook. Divine masculine men tend to spend time in their cave. That's how they process. And we as women, the divine feminine, we process things through talking things out a lot more, through emoting, through other ways of expressing. Divine masculine tends to pull back and go into their cave to be able to process. And so when they need that time as the divine feminine, we must allow this time in the cave and to be free from thinking that they're withdrawing from us, or that they're free from loving us anymore, or that they're no longer interested in the dance, or that they've left the dance floor, or anything of that nature. They will spring back just like the elastic band. And if they don't, if they're free from doing so, then they're not meant to be. A man who is truly interested in dancing with you on the dance floor and truly leading you, he will come back. He'll take time in his cave and then he will come back. He will pursue you. If he doesn't, then it's not meant to be and he's not interested. Be free from chasing, okay? Pursuing is something that is for the divine masculine to do. We as divine feminine think, oh, we can do whatever the divine masculine can do, and we can do. And it's wonderful, but in dropping that armor and dropping that softness, it's allowing the man, the divine masculine, to take the lead and be the one who pursues you. Be free from coming after him. Now, that doesn't mean you can't send a text message every so often and say, oh, I'm thinking about you, or something like that. Of course you can do. And it is advisable, especially when they're taking time in their cave, to do so, because it lets them know that you're still interested. Your task in being the follower, divine feminine goddesses, is to let him know that you're interested, that you appreciate him, that you're still interested in him, that you still find him amazing as the amazing divine masculine God incarnate that he is. That's your task. But wait for his lead. Be free from pursuing. Let him lead. Let him pursue you. So if he breaks up with you, or if he is in his cave taking some moments, be free from chasing him. Just simply be there at the cave. You can send little whispers to let him know you're still interested, to let him know you still love him, to let him know that you're there when he's ready to come out of the cave. Okay? And to know that he is like that elastic band, he will come back. Okay? And if he doesn't, he's not the one for you. That which is meant for you will always come back and will always be with you. Okay? You just need to wait and let him, allow him to lead. However, if it is taking too long of a time and it is too slow, then you know that he's no longer interested, and then you can leave the dance floor. This is important for us divine feminine to understand. And the last thing I will say to the divine feminine, be patient. Patience is usually for people who are not in vibrational frequency alignment with what they know their inner knowing is. Okay. However, just like a child who is learning to walk, once he or she has crawled and is starting to walk, the divine masculine on the dance floor, as I said earlier, is going to bumble around with some steps. He's going to misstep. Be patient with him. Guide him gently, as I spoke about my friend. And when I say guide him gently, offer suggestions. Don't tell him what to do. He doesn't want that. But offer your divine masculine suggestions, such as, I lovingly say to my twin soul, things like, well, this princess would absolutely love it to have a coffee with you. It had been, the example that's coming to my mind is, it had been 3 years And my twin soul had never asked me on a date. Not that either one of us really date per se, we just kind of meld into a moment where we see each other at a gathering, or we just ask one another, or there's a gig, or we just ask one another naturally, organically. It's not like, oh, let's go on a date, kind of thing, purposefully. It just happens organically on its own. Yet I could tell that we both had, there was this nervous tension there, and we had some business to discuss because I'm his music manager, along with other things, and so there was some business of things to discuss in that realm. But he also wanted to ask me on a date, but he was really shy because my twin soul is very shy. So I kind of just dropped a hint of, the princess would absolutely love it if you asked me for coffee. And he did, and we had our first coffee date. And it was at a beautiful coffee shop that's in Vernon, and he ordered me a fantastic hot chocolate with peppermint in it, and he asked me what I wanted, and I said to him, surprise me. Again, letting him lead. Yeah? Instead of me I knew what I wanted. I wanted a hot chocolate. And to be fair, I wanted the one with the peppermint in it because I hadn't tried it before. And so he tuned into my heart, and he knew that. And so I didn't really have to say. I just said, surprise me. And that's what he ordered for me because he was tuned into my heart. Okay? And sometimes it means directly saying also what it is that you need. If he's having trouble in his missteps on the dance floor, tuning into your heart, and he doesn't know what it is you need, sometimes you need to guide him in that respect, in a loving, gentle, kind way. I did so recently with my twin soul. I told him I need a man in my life who's going to be with me physically. I need to be held. I need to be cherished. I need to be told that I'm loved. Not because I'm being needy. It's not about neediness, it's about the natural progression of the flow in what makes me tick, which is what I had said earlier to the Divine Masculine, right? That's what makes me tick, that's what makes me come alive, is to be held and cherished and loved and uplifted and supported. And, when I put out a video that you like my video and you say, oh, it's fantastic, and you watch the video and you support my work and who I am and what I do, and that you understand me and that you hear me. And, I need a man like that in my life. I need a partner who is willing to co-create music with me and who's honored to do so and who's honored to come see me and be with me in taking that lead and coming to me, who isn't, afraid to take that step, right? So some moments you do need to say, but you say it in a loving way, not a you have to do this or else, of, having that divine masculine armor up. This is what it means to be soft. To be in that place of softness, to be open to our divine masculine and wherever he leads, and then to help correct the course of the steps when he missteps in a loving and gentle and kind way. Sometimes the palms are going to break into a sweat, sometimes there's going to be nerves when he's leading into the dance, but be patient. Give him the opportunity to step up, even if he's clumsy, doubtful, shaky. Dance and away. Dance and away. And encourage him in loving kindness when he missteps, or when he's doubtful, or when he's afraid that he's not worthy enough of you. Two things come to mind. One was when my twin soul and I first met. That first evening, we were standing in front of the spiritual center, and he looked at me lovingly in the eyes and he said, am I all that you hoped I would be? And he said it with a quiver, as if he was really saying to me, and listening to his heart, being that man-speak translator, I listened to his heart, and I knew what he was saying was, do you think that I'm worthy enough of you? Do you think I'm good enough for you? And my answer to him, all I could say in a quiver was, yes, this and so much more, because he is all that I hoped he would be. Another time he had once texted me, my twin soul, and said, I don't know if I can quench your flow. And I knew this was a misstep on the dance floor. And I encouraged him, and I said, you know what? You always quench my flow. And I gave him all of the amazing ways that he quenches my flow, while listening to a song that he wrote for me and telling him that I was listening to that song and that he quenches my flow in that way, or how he listens to my heart and he knows just what I need in the moment and gives me such, or tells me such without me even having to ask, or the way he looks at me and gives me that smile. And I let him know that he could do it and that I had faith in him. And he once said to me, when we were driving from the airport to Sedona actually, that I have faith in him even when he doesn't have faith in himself. So even when he's shaking and bumbling about on the dance floor, Divine Feminine Goddess, trust him, have patience, and dance anyway and allow him to lead. Dance anyway. And in that, I bless you, and may this guide you in love, always, in all ways, as you both dance, leading and following in the dance of the sacred path of sacred union. Espava.